Chick-fil-A. Trump made an appearance at Chick-fil-A in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hmm.
It was very interesting. And I want to play a clip of Michaela, am I saying her name right? Montgomery.
Hmm.
She was the woman who was at Chick-fil-A. And of course, she was put on Fox News immediately.
Yeah.
You know the formula. I broke it
Oh
down in
yeah.
the book.
Hmm.
But listen to a conversation she had on Fox and Friends about meeting President Trump at an Atlanta Chick-fil-A. And the media, it's all the talking points. Listen to this.
I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you. We love you. Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m. Thank you! Tell my mama I made it!
Look at the joy. Here to tell us about it is that young woman herself, Michaela Montgomery. She's also the founder of a grassroots political group to conserve the culture. Michaela, I've been waiting for this interview all morning.
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
So thanks so much for joining us. So you told the president when you were hugging him, I don't care what the media says, we support you. Tell me what you meant by that.
I am so glad that is the first question you asked me.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, in the excitement of everything, I wasn't able to really relay my message, but the general consensus or social media would have you thinking that if President Trump were to show up to the HBCU campuses or walk around the AUC community, that like some angry mob would form or a riot would ensue and that he would not be welcomed. And clearly the sentiment in that room the other day was the complete opposite.
You know, Michaela.
And I really appreciate that we were able to not only let him know that regardless of what social media says, you know, I know they're trying to make us think we're supposed to hate you, but we don't. And additionally, it was a learning experience for my students because they were able to see and experience firsthand.
Bring it down.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Michaela Montgomery works for a conservative group, and she once worked with Candace Owens' Blexit Foundation.
Right.
Take it away. Your thoughts,
Okay.
Dr. Jason
First off,
Johnson.
let's be clear. This is going to be an addendum to Griff, right? Like, because
Lord have mercy.
Let's be clear. I was just in Atlanta, right? Like, so I left right before this happened. I have friends down there, organizers, all sorts of people I've talked to. Number one, it is very easy to set these sorts of things up in the right-wing media ecosphere. This was not an on-campus Chick-fil-A. It's off-campus. So let us be clear. Donald Trump did not walk into the AUC and then managed to get there with his whole entourage and have people support him. So that's the first thing. This was organized and planned by his campaign in conjunction with this quote unquote grassroots young lady. That's the first thing. The second thing is the Chick-fil-A didn't know he was coming because I know the owner of that Chick-fil-A. He is not a Trump supporter at all. He's not a Trump supporter. Now, can I be critical of him for not standing up to Trump? Yes. And I've told people through connections, I'm not going to put his name out there to be looked up. I'm like, dude, I don't know why he didn't make himself the 2024 version of Joe the Plumber. If Donald Trump is going to come into my restaurant, I'm not going to smile. I'm not going to try and be polite on some customer service nonsense. I'm going to walk up to him and ask him some clear questions. I'm going to say, hey, you trying to deregulate is negatively impacting my business. You didn't do anything about COVID and it affected my business. You didn't do anything about taxes. You are sitting here talking about immigration issues that does nothing for the healthcare of my employees. That's the kind of thing I would have done. But what we need to understand is that these whole kabuki theater events that are set up by the right-wing ecosphere are set up. Trump campaign contacts black woman gets her 8 or 9 African-American students. And look, of course you can find 8 or 9 black kids out of all 3 AUC schools. You got Spelman, Morehouse, and Clark. Of course you can find 8 or 9 people. It wasn't no crowd. I've seen what happened when Barack Obama came to the AUC. I've seen what happened when Joe Biden came to the AUC. Okay? Donald Trump was so insignificant to the campus area, they didn't even bother to protest him because they didn't know he was coming. Because I promise you, if they did, there'd have been some protests out there. Trust and believe. So this
like
is
happened
all
at
just
was
set
it
up.
Bennett College? Remember that Bennett College when he got some criminal justice? I think it was Bennett College. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same sort of scam. So let's not pretend that this woman, again, you can find all of these AstroTurf grassroots organizers, et cetera, who want to run and hug Donald Trump. You can catch a store owner in a moment of weakness and having a big old brain fart and not saying anything. Like I said, I know the store owner is not a Trump supporter. I've met the guy. I know who he is. So, but that's what's done. And so it goes right up the pipeline to Fox News, and Fox News gets their moment. And this is what we have to be doing. This is what you do on your show. This is what we always have to be mindful of as Black people who consume the news. This stuff is often orchestrated. So we got to be careful who gets platformed when and how. We got to be careful how authentic we think these people are. We got to be careful who are the students that they grab, right? Because the lack of protest for Donald Trump is not indicative of that man having support. Trust and believe. And ordering a bunch
especially
of
in Atlanta,
sandwiches.
where he tried to overturn the votes of Black people in Atlanta, Georgia. Especially the attack on Fonnie Willis. Yeah.
Yeah. Attacks on Fonnie Willis, attacks on Fonnie Willis' personal life, attacks on Stacey Abrams, right? I mean, come on
Right.
now. If people had actually known.
Who was a Spelman grab, mind you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, who's a Spelman grad, right? Like, you got plenty of people who are proud alumni of the AUC that Donald Trump has personally attacked, degraded, and everything else like that. So I think the whole thing is performance art, and that's fine. But we got to recognize it as performance art, and we got to recognize that just because, and I think this is a problem that oftentimes happens with Trump, where there's a combination of people being shocked he's there, and so they want to be polite even if they don't like him. It's like the times in the 2016 campaign where he would go to a Black church and he'd get a church clap. I mean, he'd get a polite church clap, but we don't want him coming back. You know Donald Trump wasn't really welcome because they didn't invite him downstairs to the after church repast, did they? They just let him come in and speak and leave, right? This is the same sort of thing. If Donald Trump were that popular, that man would have been able to walk around on campus, and he was not welcome to walk around on that campus. And like I said, we got to be clear. This was not a Chick-fil-A on campus. I'm faculty at Morgan State. There's a Chick-fil-A in the student union. That is not the case in the AUC and wasn't the case with Trump.
So you said you know the owner. Did the owner give any perspective at the Chick-fil-A of why he? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So like I said, I did not speak to him. I met him at an event. Like I said, I'm not trying to repeat. You can look up, but I met him at an event several years ago, and I have my sources who I spoke to in Atlanta know him, and some of them are friends with him and everything else like that. And my source was like, "Yo, he's not a Trump supporter, like not at all." And so and I was like, "Well, why didn't he say anything?"
Why?
And they're like, "He didn't know it was coming," right? So there's elements to this that we also have to recognize, that you can make people look complicit by catching them by surprise. And I can imagine a world where if I'm the owner of a Chick-fil-A, again, that's not on campus, but if I'm the owner of a Chick-fil-A, I can imagine if I find out that Donald Trump and his entourage are in the parking lot, my choice is, do I let him in and serve him because I guess I serve customers, or do I tell him no? And who knows what that turns into, right? Like, there could be a legitimate concern that the backlash in telling him no could be more dangerous to my Chick-fil-A than letting this monster come in. So those are very real concerns that somebody can have. And by the way, I don't think there's anybody in America who's worried that if they told Joe Biden, no, you can't come into my rallies, you can't come into my cookout, you can't come into my Chick-fil-A, that somebody might firebomb.
Exactly. I mean, that's real. I mean, look at the attack on Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman in Georgia.
Exactly.
In Georgia.